Oh, hey. And nice. It is a 9 a.m. and 9 a.m. here in Los Angeles. It is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 AD. Hope you all are well. What's up to the YouTube crew? What's up to the, let's see, Rumble crew? Thank you, Pastor Shadowley, rating the stream. Making JLP's stream, raid the Hake stream. That's cool. What's up, Jules Verne? Crichton, Herndon, Old Saucy. Oh, man. Psst, what in the world? I'm late. Terrible. I need I guess I was making fun of somebody for forgetting, for not being aware. And here I am. I didn't even turn on the punchy.tv/Hake server. What a mess. But I should be live over there pretty soon over on punchy.tv/Hake. And other platforms, Facebook. I'm there. What's up, everybody? X. The live X stream. Lots to cover today, actually. Lots to cover. I think. These judges are blocking our greatest President Trump, or trying to. We'll see what happens, you know. It's basically to be expected. What, you didn't expect this? I expected it. And so why be mad about it? Unless you just want to be mad, which many people want to be mad. They love it. It's sick. It's really disgusting. But, yeah, there's this federal female Hispanic judge, Ana Reyes, who blocked Trump's trans troops ban. Talk about blind. Misleaderess of the blind. She's the one full of hatred and animus. Not Trump. Trump loves the transgenders. Are you kidding me? So, that's one thing that's going on over there. Another judge said that Elon Musk cannot dismantle USAID. Let me just make sure that this is going. Yeah. But he said that USAID is like Marxist and kind of like corrupt. He said, so he used the word criminal. I don't know if he was exaggerating, because sometimes you can call something a crime when it's not, according to the United States law, necessarily a crime. But in normal people's minds, may as well be a crime. It's criminal. And then there's other things that are called crimes, like what Trump supposedly did, that are not actual crimes in normal people's minds. You know that? You know what I mean? So, yeah, of course judges are going to try to stop it, along with, in collusion with the un-American, so-called American Civil Liberties Union and others who are fighting against Trump. Because the enemies of America have been in America from forever. Just like the enemies of the Jews, the enemies of the Israelites were some of the Israelite and Jewish leadership at the time. Just like your enemy is in you, primarily. Because people are evil. It's sick, but it's to be expected. It really is. Okay, what else is going on in the world? Oh, there's this French politician who wants the Statue of Liberty back. What a ridiculous thing. Because of Trump being nice to Putin. Too nice to Putin for his taste. So, some, silly things going on in the world. And then, I have one of my top favorite Jews to play for you guys. One of my top favorite Jews, Stephen Miller. He's like a nationalist for America. All the whites love him. He went up against this CNN lady a couple of days ago, or maybe a few days ago, because he was talking about, I guess, with Trump supposedly defying these judges' orders and stuff. Nice, very nice. And then there's these Reddit bros who blame themselves. Shout out to the Reddit bros. Hey, I'm a Reddit bro. They blame themselves for calling the woman, or blame men for calling the woman what they are, and for the woman being crazy. They want to look at themselves but not acknowledge that the woman is wrong at all. You can acknowledge you're wrong because you are wrong, but you're not even acknowledging that you're wrong right. We're talking about relationships, Reddit relationships. So I like that stuff, and maybe I can explain to you why I like it, because you guys don't seem to get the point that much. Very nice. So anyway, everybody, let's just get right on with the show.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
So, how you guys doing? I am fine. Tugging on my spiffy shirt. It's black and light black, which is to say dark gray, and blue, dark blue, deep blue, and has something that looks like a C type of a thing in it, or whatever. And I like it. Whatever. I wanted to, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, you can call in 1-888-775-3773. That is 888-77-JESSE, Jesse. And you can also super chat, buymeacoffee.com/the Hake Report, not JLP Talk. That's for JLP super chats. You can rumble rant. Shirt looks nice. Nice, thank you. You can D-Live lemons, ice cream, maybe even diamonds or ninjaginis. No pressure. You can Streamlabs, Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. It's actually coffee, but it's phonetic. Even Cash App, James Anton Hake on Cash App. Very nice. Wow. And yes, I am live on punchy.tv/Hake. Go, as Anchor Baby instructed you, go make an account on punchy.tv/Hake or punchy.tv, and then follow Hake, follow JFTV, Joel Friday TV, follow Anchor Baby, follow Jesse Lee Peterson, where Punchy TV and The Fallen State and the Jesse Lee Peterson Show and Church all stream on Jesse Lee Peterson's punchy.tv channel. So let's get into this news a bit. I'd like to plow through it. Isn't that nice? What did I call that? We covered it the other day. That was not Pirates Cove. Something Cove. Oh yeah, Sacred Cove. There it is. It's right there in the title. So these judges are just ridiculous, in my opinion. The judges are out of control. And they've been that way ever since I was a kid. Since I was a kid, I've been hearing about activist judges from, people who are all into politics. My parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, everybody knows it. One such judge is this federal judge indefinitely blocking President Trump's ban on transgender so-called service members on Tuesday, dealing a supposedly major defeat to what they call a controversial. Anytime you see that word, as you know, controversial means in the direction of what's right, reasonable, halfway reasonable, we'll call it. I tend to settle on halfway reasonable because usually controversial means it's in the direction of what's right, doesn't maybe go far enough, or it may miss the mark in some ways, but it's not controversial at all. It's just the only reason that it's controversial is because people are insane. Because it's insane to think that you're doing the transgender people a favor by validating their transgendiality. That you're not doing them a favor. That's mama. That's insane. And shout out to them, but Trump loves you. And this evil judge, so-called judge, does not. Trump resurrected this controversial policy from his first term. Remember his first term, he tweeted out, "We cannot have the transgenders in the military after studying this issue. The ban was set to begin later this month, March, could have affected an estimated 14,000 so-called transgender troops. 14,000? How? How is there 14,000 of these people? And shout out to these people. I like them. I know them. I like them. I mean, some of them I want to stay away from. Others, look, it took 4 people to write this. Trump signs executive orders. This was from January 27th. Executive orders to reshape the military, including banning transgender troops. Look at all these mostly women and a male who wrote this article. Presumably women. Shout out. So here he is in the Oval Office, signing a series of executive orders Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. He's been writing them ever since day one was the 20th, I want to say. So he brought back those service members, as you may have forgotten, but you may recall, who they were discharged unconstitutionally, by the way. if you want to talk about that type of stuff, I don't know. I'm just throwing out that word, like, because they throw out that word, unconstitutional. You know how these soldiers refused to get the vaccine over COVID-19, the China virus. They didn't want to get vaxxed, and they got kicked out. That means that our best people, some of our best people got kicked out. Because some of our best people would be sensible enough, because they're thinking, I'm young, I'm fit. This schmax is not necessarily for me. This schmax, there's no long-term studies. Because they just came up with it. Operation Warp Speed, one of the greatest achievements. But it can do great harm, potentially, if it's not for you. If it's not fit for your body. And it's not necessarily fit for a whole lot of bodies, I hear. I don't know. So he brought those people back, and he got Pete Hegseth in there as Secretary of State, and he said, getting rid of DEI inside the Pentagon. And by the way, I heard in Trump's speech, people miscalled it, they misstated it as the State of the Union, but it was just an address to the joint session of Congress like a month ago or so, plus or minus a few weeks, I don't know, that recruitment is up. And they've been having problems recruiting people. And I think it's partly because of this DEI stuff, the forced vaccination stuff, the liberal agenda, the LGBTIQ agenda that Obama brought in, Biden brought in, Bill Clinton brought in. Don't ask, don't tell. You can be gay, just don't ask, don't tell. And then Obama said, oh, we're going to repeal don't ask, don't tell. You can be full blown out with it, gay, and be in the military. They brought in women into the military in roles that they don't belong. Crazy. Trump had banned transgender so-called Americans from serving the military in 2017 during his first administration. I don't think that his generals even enforced that properly. I don't think. I think they were shocked because he tweeted it out. But that's a mess. So let's see. Pentagon plans to remove transgender services members under this new policy that was reported in late February. That other report where he signed this stuff was in January. So they have 2 months to do it. And then in the second month, this judge undermines it. Let's see if is it here? Oh, no. Okay. Will it let me in? Yeah, this federal so-called judge indefinitely blocks the ban, calling it soaked in animus. That's what Joel has, racial animus. Totally kidding. But people accuse him of having racial animus. I think I kind of fed that rumor. It was a joking rumor, obviously. He doesn't have an animus-filled bone in his body. U.S. District Judge Ana Reyes. Do you really believe there's 14,000 transgenders? Said the administration cannot enforce the ban because, quote, it is soaked in animus. That's not a reason not to enforce it. Dripping with pretext. Pretext is pretense, I think. What does pretext mean? Its language is unabashedly demeaning. Demeaning. Is it demeaning to be what you think is so-called transgender, or is it demeaning to call it what it is? I don't know. I don't even know what this thing says. Its policy stigmatizes transgender persons as inherently unfit, and its conclusions bear no relation to fact, so claims she. Who wrote this article? Devin Cole. Black. Looks like, maybe. Nice name. A scathing ruling. Judge Ana Reyes. I'm curious what she looks like. Ana Reyes. Her? Aw. She can do it. She's kind of cute. Oh, wait. Is that the same woman? This is her when she was younger. American lawyer. I like how they're calling these judges lawyers. They're reminding us that these judges are nothing more than liars. 51 years old, Montevideo. Montevideo, born in Montevideo, Uruguay. That's the capital of Uruguay. Ana Cecilia Reyes. Sorry. Uruguayan, born, that's South America, right? I think. American so-called lawyer who has served as district judge of the United States under D.C. since 2023. Who appointed this? Oh, that would have been a Biden judge. Yeah. She was appointed by Biden. I was going to say, is this an Obama judge? Yes. Which is to say, a Biden judge. Because it's the Obama administration all over again, running the show. And Biden just going along with whatever they want. Because he's a politician. First Latina. What? And first openly LGBT person. They included the T in Wikipedia. Who is this? Who is this? Does she have a dead name? Why are they including the T? Was she a lesbian or a bisexual so-called thing? Or is she a T, transgender? Why didn't she recuse herself? Oh, look at her with this dog. Okay, she can do evil in our country. her dog Scout. That's fine. Let her do evil in our country, right? Went to Harvard. See, what a joke. I was telling you about how Harvard's giving away free tuition to the people making under 200,000 or 100,000. Master's degree in international public policy. Was a law clerk for Judge Amalia Kierce. So she is, what? Why doesn't she recuse herself? She was part of the legal team challenging the Trump administration's restrictions on refugees entering the United States through ports of entry. This woman seems like she's the one with animus towards Trump and towards men and towards sensible people and towards, oh, and they call her LGBTQ over here to serve as a district court judge. And you guys claim Biden is a Christian. I don't know if any of you guys say that. She criticized the DOJ in 2024 for refusing to allow attorneys involved in the Hunter Biden administration investigation to comply with subpoenas by blah, blah, blah. She accused DOJ of hypocrisy in prosecuting Peter Navarro, noting he had been in prison for not complying with House committee subpoenas. Oh, so she's pretending to be fair because people didn't have to go in for Hunter Biden. She was part of the Hunter Biden witch hunt. Wow. And no loyalty. She has a dog, but she's not loyal. No loyalty to the Bidens because Biden put her in there. What a mess. She immigrated to Louisville, Kentucky as a child, born in 1974. Reunited with her first grade teacher after 40 years. What? Who helped her learn English. What a mess. Glad I looked her up. She doesn't seem like this. Well, obviously she's not unbiased if she's going to say that it's soaked in, that Trump's ban is soaked in animus, dripping with pretext. What is pretext again? Define. I think that it's pretense, basically. Pretext. A reason given in justification of a course of action that is not the real reason. Military readiness, I believe, was the pretext, her word, for the transgender thing. White House transgender troops ban, executive order. Boom. Can we read this thing? Can we read this thing? White House, prioritizing, January 27th, 2025, prioritizing military excellence and readiness was they're calling it the pretext. Dripping with pretext, she called it. This is whitehouse.org, January 27th, by the authority vested in me, blah, 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 our greatest president. The U.S. military has a clear mission to protect the American people and our homeland as the world's most lethal and effective fighting force. Are the so-called transgenders lethal and effective? They're more Antifa per capita, probably. But Antifa is not that lethal or effective. They're good at being kind of terrorist, insurrectionists. I know that there's some really strong guys who've turned so-called transgender in their minds and bodies, imaginations. The armed forces has been afflicted with radical gender ideology, yes, to appease activists unconcerned with the requirements of military service like physical and mental health. That's accurate. That's factual. Selflessness, unit cohesion. Are you kidding me? A lot of times the LGBTs, they'll tell you it themselves. The lesbians, so-called gays, so-called bis, the so-called transgenders, they don't get along with each other. They'll laugh and play and party with each other, but then they'll fight. The lesbians like crazy. They have the most DV per capita, domestic violence per capita. That's not cohesion. They're united by hate toward the people whom they feel hate them, and in some cases, people do hate them. It's just all hate all around. Provides a policy, DoD ensures service members free of medical conditions or physical defects may reasonably be expected to require these excessive time lost from duty for necessary treatment or hospitalization. Many mental and physical health conditions incompatible with active duty. Bipolar and related disorders, eating disorders, suicidality, a prior psychiatric hospitalization. We used to be quite picky. I heard JLP wasn't even allowed in because he had the cleft palate. And Trump wasn't able to serve because he had bone spurs on his, whatever that is, on his heels or something. Or at least he got out of it. People all mad about that. Draft dodging. As if fighting in overseas was a good thing back then. Or it ever was. Who knows? Shout out, though. Consistent with military mission, expressing a false gender identity divergent from an individual's sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards. Yeah, that's right. It's gender misidentity. It just is. It's not gender identity. It's misidentity. You're supposed to let go of even your identity as a man or as a woman. Let go of that, but not take on more than the way that God made your body. Just like Joel Friday says, even so-called heterosexuality is a perversion. And it so oftentimes is. Okay, beyond the hormonal and surgical medical interventions involved, because they've pushed that. And I've heard, and if you believe in this thing, then you believe in science of turning a young boy into a man at the proper age, take some testosterone, and you want to do it it should happen naturally at a relatively younger age, the puberty thing. And that's why they're and I don't know about if it's a similar thing for the women. Women do go through puberty earlier, I heard, than boys do, young girls do, earlier than boys do. And that's the excuse why they're pushing it on kids. Because you go through puberty already, they want to block that. It's psycho. It's crazy. It's a mess. The chat is a mess. Shout out. I'm seeing all these orange tags in the chat. Let me just prove it to you. YouTube/The Hake Report/live. And you'll see all these orange things over here. If it ever wakes up and goes. I'm seeing all these orange. Look at all this. Everybody tagging me. You tag me and it turns orange on me. And you're not even saying anything that I need to be paying attention. Hake thinks Bill Nye is a terrorist. Okay, well, that's true. I heard you get banned if you say Hake is blah, blah, blah. Why ban if it's not true? Okay, you want to be banned? So we ban them. Because this is not a free speech zone. We ban people. Is that Rika? No, that's not Rika. I'll just put him on a timeout. Should I time him out? Nah, whatever. You guys, I'll let the mods handle you guys. Look at all these psychos. People. The snake pit. Where was I? A man's assertion that he is a woman and his requirement that others honor this is falsehood and not consistent with the humility and selflessness required of a service member. That's all the truth. That's all facts as well. So this woman is lying, soaked in animus. It's not animus. That's love, dripping with pretext, which is pretense, right? A pretense of your reasoning. No, that's not true. Language is unabashedly demeaning. That's not demeaning. It's the truth. You can say the so-called truth sort of demeaningly, but that's not what Trump is doing. Its policy stigmatizes them as inherently unfit. I mean, factual, they are. Shout out. Conclusions bear no relation to fact. That's a lie. Indeed, the cruel irony is that, so this woman is on her high horse. These judges, it's so out of place when judges start preaching from the bench. Indeed, the cruel irony, emotional words, is that thousands, there's another so-called judge, thousands of transgender service members have sacrificed, some risking their lives. Indeed, they have, I'm sure, to ensure others the very real equal protection rights. That's not what the military does. I know that everybody says it, but the military does not protect anybody's freedom or rights. It doesn't. I don't know of one time that the military has done that, ever. That's a pretense. That's the pretext that the military ban seeks to deny them. No, it doesn't. It's protecting us and them, honestly. So so that's the thing. That's that phoniness. You may have heard that Elon Musk, his Doge thing is, so that's a loss for her, really. It's not a loss for Trump. It's a loss, you could call it for America, but it's just a setback. It's a little thing. It's a bump in the road. You expect those. Billionaire Elon Musk's effort to remake the U.S. government took a hit. Tuesday, a federal judge blocked Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, from shutting down U.S. aid because it's likely, quote unquote, unconstitutional. What? You're a judge and you don't know whether it's unconstitutional or not, so you just have to say likely unconstitutional so they can't catch you in a lie? Is that what's happening? Theodore D. Chuang. C-H-U-A-N-G, not to be confused with Jackie Cheung, C-H-E-U-N-G. And I will get to your calls and your super chats and stuff, everybody. This guy, I feel like I recognize him. Why do they call him a judge and not a lawyer? / liar. Is this a Biden or Obama judge? District of Maryland. Which person, Obama. Obama appointed him 11 years ago. Look at that face. Any relation to that guy Hung, whom Anchor Baby talked about, the singer? Totally different name. Taiwanese American, which is to say Chinese American. Family of Media, PA. In 1969, he was born. His parents, immigrants from Taiwan. So would that make him an Anchor Baby? Or were his parents naturalized citizens before he was born? I think that would make him an Anchor Baby. And very good at school, apparently. But not a sensible man. Talking about likely unconstitutional. Obama put him in. Terrible. He's had other run-ins with Trump, looks like. In 2020, Chuang suspended the in-person requirement for women wanting to obtain mifepristone during the China virus scam-demic due to public health risks, so-called. And he affirmed the decision in 2020 when the Trump administration requested to reinstate that requirement. Supreme Court subsequently overruled his decision 6-3, requiring women to obtain the pills in person, the abortion pill, in person until at least the end of the Trump presidency. Nice. So he's been overruled once before. Maybe it'll happen again. United States Agency for International Development. What a mess. Over on the Anchor Baby show, Mr. Pink had a great call about USAID versus America. International development, degenerate. Horrible. So that person is, we have enemies of America entrenched, and we've known it for a long time. Oops. Oh, I've been playing something in the background forever. Whoa, look at this. Look at this. Going back to the transgender thing, it can take a minimum of 12 months for an individual to complete treatments after so-called transition surgery. It involves heavy narcotics, and a lot of the LGBTs are on drugs. They party with them, and they take them for this type of stuff. You know, the misguided messing with their bodies. Terrible. These women, too, take these drugs to mess with their bodies. They take not just abortion drugs, which is what this guy, one of the things that this Asian guy, judge, was involved in, but also, what is that stuff? Birth control? Terrible. Birth control. People mess up their bodies with that stuff. And then they have trouble making babies. And then they want their, what is that stuff where you are, oh, there it is. Where you have that insemination thing, IVF, in vitro fertilization stuff. Sick stuff. So I don't know, but I don't care about what these judges think they have to say. They're not trustworthy people. Do you know more than a judge? That's an appeal to it's an appeal to false authority and expertise. You have some common sense, and you don't have to believe them. Another judge. So-called judge, right? Female Latina judges who have an agenda, LGBT judge. That's crazy. It's to be expected. Let me get to a call here, guys. Or two. Daniel in Tejas, Texas is on the line. Daniel, thank you for calling, man. How you doing?
Thank you for having me, James. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
So I missed the calling in the past couple of days when it was St. Patrick's Day. But, I wanted to share a little bit of Irish history.
Are you Irish? Not to dox. You don't have to answer that.
We're all Irish. Everyone's Irish.
Oh, okay. Dang. Really?
Everyone's Irish. Yeah.
They do get around. They like to mix.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to the Neanderthals.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I believe stuff when you say stuff. You got to be careful. Everybody, be careful what you believe. You hear stuff on the Hake report from Hake or whoever. Even if we say it with authority, know for yourself.
People on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, buyer beware.
Yep.
I just want to say just a little. I don't want to go too deep into Irish history because I want to ask you a question about Jesse Lee Peterson's network. But for the Irish thing, one thing that stands out to me is their history of wanting an independent Ireland, and they were neutral in World War II, much to the chagrin of England.
I heard that they were neutral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I heard that
And
just yesterday, actually.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Did
because
somebody mention that yesterday?
I don't know. I might have been listening to something that was prior recorded. It was either yesterday or the day before. I was hearing about how, oh no, I might have heard it over the weekend. How, England had the British Empire, right? They colonized,
Right.
and then those colonies are coming back and colonizing inside of England. And so England is diverse. But Ireland never colonized anybody. They didn't even take a position in World War II, and yet they're taking in all these immigrants and so-called refugees into their country, and it's a
Yeah.
mess. They can't keep Ireland Irish.
Yeah. The Ireland is suffering many of the same things that all the West is suffering.
Right. I think they had a so-called gay prime minister or something at one
Yeah,
point.
that's right. Yeah.
What a mess.
But
Shout out.
about a decade ago, I read extensively on the history of Ireland, and there was a couple of books. One was about the Easter Revolution in 1916,
Easter.
which is that.
Easter.
Yes,
Okay.
as in the most important day for Christians.
Yeah.
In 1916, they had their armed revolution, and that was over the course of World War One. So, what was happening was the Irish were suffering casualties in World War One in the interest of England.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it basically stirred up dissension, and following that, over the course of time, they would be neutral. Because of that, they would remain neutral in World War II. They would not help England.
Good for them,
And
I think.
well, I mean, you pick your battles.
Right.
And they decided that. But the thing is, England was being bombed actively. Right, London is being bombed
By the Nazis.
by the Germans in World War II.
Yep.
And so it says a little bit more to be neutral as Ireland as opposed to being neutral as Cameroon, right?
Neutral as what?
Cameroon. I just threw it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So is it like a remote?
Yeah, like
nation.
an inconsequential nation.
Right.
Right.
Whereas
it means a little bit more for Ireland to be neutral
Yeah,
in that scenario.
Because Ireland is on the same set of sort of islands, right?
Right. Right. The British Isles. And Ireland subsequently would have this constant tension. Now, these tensions there's a long history of these tensions between the British and the Irish. And a lot of it comes down to Protestants and Catholics. And the other part is geography. And then you have the ethnicity of the Irish and the British being different.
Yeah.
And so after World War II, the political party that came to prominence for asserting Irish and independent Ireland would be Sinn Féin. And Sinn Féin would host the Irish Republican Army as its military arm. And so there's a long, tumultuous history that culminated into the troubles in the 90s in Ireland, where you had your bombings from this terrorist arm, and the Sinn Féin would kind of deny, while the IRA would claim.
Wow.
So
Sinn Féin? That sounds Chinese or something, but it's not, right?
it is. It's an Irish word. I forget what it means, but we don't have to worry about pronunciation or anything.
Right.
It's just that's what it is. What it is. But now it's got a lot of problems. But I want to move on. I wanted to move on from that and ask you, because you'd be in a good position of authority to speak on this, of early times in the early days of the Bond network, where Jesse Lee Peterson in the 90s was broadcasting. And I think I watched what was the premiere episode of the Jesse Lee Peterson show. And it was very interesting to me because he says the exact same thing then that he says today. All of the stuff, forgiving your family, forgiving your parents, and doing the silent prayer and not following spiritual advisors elsewhere because they are in it for other means than what is spiritually sound.
And they don't know what they're talking about. They're blind misleaders of the blind.
Right. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? When he's starting his network, he's literally saying the same thing then that he's saying now.
I might be familiar. Well, there have been many different versions of his show. He had his radio show in the 90s.
Okay.
That was on LA radio. He was kicked off of at least a couple of different stations because of different reasons. They threatened to bomb the station. Some of the blacks did, and then some of the Christians were disagreeing with him about some stuff.
You said they bombed?
They threatened to bomb the station.
Oh, threatened to bomb it.
Yeah. I don't know where those recordings are. Some of those might not be online. But there are his Judge Clarence Thomas stuff from the TV days that he did way back in 1991 and on.
Yeah.
There was there was a radio show. I found him in 2007, right? I heard about him by word of mouth in 2007, February. Started coming to the Bond Sunday services church. And he started a radio show back up at that time. And I remember him saying stuff like that in 2007. And he was definitely saying a lot of that stuff in the TV days, the early TV days from way back before I ever heard about him. So I don't know specifically which episode or premiere that you're talking about, though.
I think it would. I don't know, and I can't speak intelligently on it.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that it was interesting to hear because it was like hearing a modern show from 1996, right? I tune in frequently to JLP Today.
Yeah.
And then I see this thing from what I think is 1996.
Okay.
And it's like watching the show today.
Yeah.
Listening to how he speaks.
Yep. Yeah.
And he did it in front of what I presume to be an audience at the time, so that he would field questions.
Yes.
In real time.
Yeah, that would have been the TV show.
Right. It was definitely a TV show. And, the question of note that he fielded was, well, why should we listen to you? You just told us, right? And his response was, because I want you to be free. I'm not trying to control you.
Right. And he tells people, know for yourselves.
Yeah.
Don't even listen to him. Know for yourself.
Yeah. He would say the preachers typically, in his experience, and he would still do the 99%, like not all, but most sort of thing.
Right.
He would still do that back then.
Yeah.
And he'd say 99.9 because in his experience, he's only known one other person of whom he didn't specify.
Yeah.
That has been legitimate. And these preachers, they'd come to the house, they'd eat up all your food. And if you ask them, well, I don't feel like a man. What do I need to do to be a man? They would just quote some scripture, and then you'd say, I don't know what that means. And they would say, well, that's what the book says, so that's what it is. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah. Preachers talk religion in church in the black community, 1995. Could be that one. I'm scrolling through the 90s TV stuff that's over on the Jesse Lee Peterson YouTube channel. It might be one of these things. Let's see here.
So I guess my question is, did you find that same thing, that the message has been so clear and concise in your time there at Bond?
It has been quite consistent. It is like grown and developed and new points, stuff that I haven't heard or didn't realize that I was hearing. Because sometimes he says stuff over and over again and it doesn't sink in or it doesn't click or you don't even notice.
Right.
And then, oh, that's what that's saying or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, things have developed. For example, like he used to call most blacks racist. And
Yeah.
then around like 2012, he's like, racism doesn't even exist. And then, but sometimes he would still call them racist. And then it really clicked. This doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
It's just evil or good or right or wrong. But people want to call stuff that's right. It's like that woman I was reading who was talking about that judge woman, talking about Trump's transgender troops ban. She was calling it stigmatizing the troops as unfit. Well, either it's true or it's false. Either they're fit or they're unfit.
Right.
It's not about stigma or racism or prejudice. It's reality or not reality. But she didn't want to acknowledge that because she should have recused herself, honestly. But so different things like that, and that's just a surface example, the racism doesn't exist thing. But there are the greatest sin is to forget. That's something that he's been saying sort of recently. Forget to remember, to be present.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the things that he's said that was sort of new to me in recent years. So things have developed, but the root, forgiveness, responsibility for your life is the same.
Yeah.
Know for yourself. Follow no leader. Yeah.
Do you find that when you go elsewhere and hear these preachers or whoever it is, that it's kind of nagging?
The preachers come off as nagging?
Right.
That's an interesting word. Sometimes.
Certainly.
Sometimes, yeah, definitely. Like,
and it also,
they don't necessarily even seem to know what they're talking about, or they'll talk out of both sides of their mouth. They'll contradict themselves. They say you still sin when the Bible says the opposite. They say all kinds of things that just muddy the water. So
I know that my father. Oh man, well. So I'll put it this way: my father knew a man that was a priest that went over to a Pennsylvania Dutch community, and they're Protestant, and he was invited over there to do sermons. And
your father's Catholic, right?
Yes.
Okay.
My father knew him as a Catholic.
Yeah.
And so the priest, and this is back in the 70s, and the priest goes to this Pennsylvania Dutch community, and he does a typical sermon that he would ordinarily do, and he did this for a few days, and he, you pick a chapter out of the Bible, usually New Testament, and you would speak on it, and he would kind of share the enlightening message of this chapter. And he was pulled to the side, and they said, I don't know if they said father, but they said, your sermons are really good. We really like them. But when are you going to get to the fire and brimstone? They're like, yeah, when are you going to get to the good stuff? And it kind of comes down to entertainment, I think, for a lot of these spiritual advisors.
Yeah.
They're putting on a show.
Yeah, that's why there's so much focus on the music and stuff like that. And coming up with a lot of them, you see them coming up with flashy examples and different a lot of exclamatory remarks. That comes off as, you said the word nagging, a lot of it sounds all the same. Like they're just saying sayings,
Right.
and it comes off really empty. Like I don't know that
Yeah.
they know what they're talking about. So yeah, what a mess. That's interesting about the fire and brimstone stuff as entertainment. That's a fair point.
That's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
All
Sometimes
the
some people.
sinners will be punished. You know.
Right.
You know, you're naughty before the eyes of the Lord, and He shall smite you. You know, that sort of fanfare.
Right. Kind of like there's this guy whom JLP has interviewed a couple of times now who just kind of off the deep end about the anti-gay thing, and it's just wild. And
Yeah.
he's entertaining, but he's sometimes sort of biblical, but then he draws false conclusions from the Bible too, like so many of them do. And he's just judgmental with it. And the people eat it up, and then they take sides. You know, in the Bible, there's I know you kind of roll your eyes about the Bible a little bit, understandably.
Yeah.
But one of the times Paul wrote about the followers, people say, I follow Paul, I follow Apollos, I follow Christ. They're just ego puffing up about whose preacher is the best.
Yeah.
And that's mess.
And everyone knows it's JLP.
That's funny, man. People
He is really good,
are
though.
team.
Yeah.
People get on team JLP, and that's not what JLP is. Not a team thing.
Right.
It's about
Right.
love, but there's no love. It's just all pride. They're just replacing one false god for another.
Yeah.
They're just one ego pursuit for another. Yeah, go ahead.
I was really impressed with the Fallen State with Jim Breuer.
Yeah, me too.
That came from out of nowhere.
Wasn't it
That
nice?
was really cool.
And
Yeah.
were you you were probably familiar with Jim Breuer?
Oh yeah. You know, we grew up with him on the TV.
On what show?
Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay.
You know, you wouldn't have been watching it because I know that you had certain restrictions in your household.
Yeah, we weren't even. I didn't even watch TV except for Sundays at Grandma's, and then a little bit of Batman, the animated series. I was allowed to watch as it got
was a
more
good show.
spoiled. Oh yeah, definitely. So he was on SNL, huh? Okay.
Yeah, he did. He was on SNL for a number of years, and he did things like Goat Boy and Joe Pesci. He would imitate Joe Pesci.
Oh wow.
Those were kind of his big claims, and he did a really good job.
Yeah, Joe Pesci's so scary. He's the one who's really scary, right? He's like,
Yeah,
what's
and that's
funny?
and that's what he would perform on the show: his excessive violence at menial slights or
Right.
perceived slights. Right? You'd have a talk show. So Jim Brewer's playing Joe Pesci. You'd have a talk show, and a guest would come on, and then somebody playing Robert De Niro would be there, and basically telling Joe Pesci, that he's right for getting angry.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but Jim Breuer on here, he was not excessively silly. He was taking the answers seriously and really receptive.
He was, yeah. He wasn't. He was very receptive, and that's recently I've kind of watched some of his stand-up, and and Jesse said this in his interview that he knew that he would be receptive to the message.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, that's easy to see with Jim Breuer.
Because Jim Breuer is not a dumb, empty liberal or something. I don't know.
He's not. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he has anything to hide, really, or he doesn't try to hide anything.
Yeah. That's cool. A lot of people are sort of despising him. Calling him not funny. People were saying, "Oh, he's not funny," and I don't know if he is or isn't.
Well, when he was on Saturday Night Live, he would be confined to the rules of Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
You know, and I think what's funny about Jim Breuer is when he's able to be himself and be honest. But when he's in the Saturday Night Live format, you're in this this format of song and dance in a way. So I think that it would be hard for him to excel in that environment. But I think he did well.
Okay.
For what he was confined to.
Yeah. And then he was also in that other movie, Half Baked, the pot movie with with Dave Chappelle. Was he like a co-star or was he just like a cameo?
He didn't have. I don't think he had like a lead role.
Right.
He had a prominent role, but it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, me too.
It was very much a stoner film.
Right.
It prided itself
for some
on being
reason
that.
I liked it, even though it was like that. I've never liked the stoner, get high and pot culture at all. Not just because it smells, but just because people act stupid. And then also it's not a good thing to be celebrating. It's kind of like it's kind of worse than, in a way, the getting drunk culture. And maybe I shouldn't really compare the two because that's a distraction for a lot of people. But it's evil, just like the getting drunk culture is evil, and the getting high culture is it's a mess. Okay.
And I don't think it's true. When they say, smoking pot will mellow you out.
Right.
I have not seen that. Usually, people that smoke pot are anxious. They're quick-tempered.
Yeah, and then they lose their memory. Like they don't really have a good short-term memory. I've known a couple of pot smokers, and I'm like, I got into the habit of repeating myself to my friends. Not that my friends are likely like that. I don't know what is wrong with my friends, but I got into the habit of repeating myself with just my friends in general. And when I got around some people who didn't have to be like, they didn't need to be told the same thing over and over. And they're like, you said that already. I'm like, oh, I'm used to my friends who don't remember. Okay, I sort of. So interesting. So his more recent stuff, would you believe that it's unfunny?
No, his more recent stuff is good because I think it's more honest. It is more wholesome.
Okay.
It's more family oriented.
Yeah.
It's not smoking pot all the time.
Right.
He's kind of moved on from that.
Yeah. Good for him.
But his shtick is that he looks like a pothead.
He totally does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he's not.
But that's just his normal appearance.
Right. Yeah.
That's his shtick. I mean, I'm not saying that personally. I'm just saying that's his shtick.
Right. There are people who are not funny as stand-up comedians whom I really love to listen to. Like, I find them way better on, like, podcasts and stuff. And so I was just, that's partly why I was asking about Jim Breuer, if he's better as, like, a real conversation type person than as a comedian.
Well, I know that his recent stand-up acts have been kind of like a commentary.
Okay.
But
nice.
It's still funny.
Yeah. Right on. Cool. Well, we're millennial boomers, aren't we? Aren't you kind of a millennial boomer?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're old fogies now.
Yeah. So we can get along. We have more patience than the younger crowd.
Yeah. The boomers were big fans of Animal House. I mean,
I've heard
Animal House is, it's not funny if you watch it now.
Okay.
But boomers will swear by it.
Yeah. I've heard of Animal House. That was a big movie. It's a classic.
That's like the original stoner film. It's the original college frat.
Okay.
Comedy film.
1978. Almost 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's kind of the one that kicked off the genre of college humor.
I was listening. Somebody called into somebody was talking in church a father was talking in church, talking about showing his son, young teenage son, Friday, the movie called
yeah,
Friday.
that's more recent. Yeah.
And Friday was too slow for the son. It moved too slowly.
Yeah.
And
can
I
see that.
found that to be interesting because Friday is supposed to be like a comedy, a black entertaining comedy, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And
They're all hanging around the barber shop.
but
and
it's
whatnot.
too slow for this this 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, it's not,
The younger crowd, shout out. I guess they've just gotten really excellent at nonstop hyperactive movement. But a lot of these movies stink. These newer movies, I think. They're not
that is
good.
true. And I think there are some sleeper hits in terms of, things that are entertaining, like things that were released and weren't well received at the time of release are now actually a decent watch
Yeah,
or a decent listen. There's that too.
true. Well, right on.
Somewhere out there, there's a sleeper hit.
That's right. It's good to hear from you, Daniel, in Texas. Thanks, man. Cool feedback.
You too.
All right.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Dennis in New Jersey's on the line over here. We're past the top of the hour. Dennis, thanks for calling and holding. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Hake?
Hey.
Hey, yeah, I was listening to you talk to the other caller, and he was y'all were talking about marijuana.
You're right.
Yeah, I used to be a heavy marijuana smoker, but I quit it cold turkey about 12 years ago.
Nice.
Not 12, 20 years ago.
20. What prompted it? What prompted you quitting?
Oh, they said that you can't smoke if you're joining the military.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah.
So
money
the military was more important to you.
Well, the money in the military was more important.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't want to lose a job,
Yep.
But yeah. But I recall when I took it, it relaxed me,
Right.
When I did smoke it, like say if I was, doing something physical and my body was a little aching, I could smoke it and relax, fall asleep, just kick my feet up. Or if I was in a social event, if I go out, it kind of felt like I was drinking alcohol, but it didn't give me, the morning sickness that alcohol gives you.
Okay. You wouldn't be hungover afterwards. You would wake up and be fresh.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, might be a little bit groggy, but I
Okay.
wouldn't have the nausea and the headaches and all that stuff. No. Yeah, so it was basically just a substitute for drinking alcohol.
So, if you were, when you didn't take it, when you didn't have it, were you anxious to get it?
When I didn't have it, the only time I was anxious to get it when I didn't have it was when it was my free time and I had nothing to do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if I had it like some time, my free time to myself, and I wanted to smoke,
Yeah.
then I grab it. But if I was in the middle of doing something like going to work or handling business, that wasn't on my mind.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but when I had time to myself to, just be in my own thoughts, then it comes up.
Right.
Yeah. So
sounds a lot like any other vice.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool that you dropped it.
Yeah, I just dropped it.
And you didn't pick it back up.
Nah. Didn't need it.
Nice.
What I need it for.
Right.
Yeah, all it did was just, relax me and give me relaxation. But at the same time, after, the high goes away, then whatever problems that you had prior to, you got high and started to relax. It's still there.
Right.
So it's better just to deal with the problem than to, just to cover it up with medication.
True.
Only problem is, in this world, especially when you're an adult, the problems never stop.
Yep.
There's always something to add, but you're just, a slave to the world.
But you
So you
figure out, you realize that you can relax even amidst them, the situations, and just deal with them. And it's better.
yeah, only time I get to relax is when I'm asleep. It feels like it.
Do you get enough
Yeah.
sleep?
Probably not.
Same.
Yeah.
Right
Or I
on.
definitely need to get more of it.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I had this weird question for you, right?
Okay.
What's it like being a white man? What's it feel like?
Um, I don't know. I don't know what it feels like. Like I know what it feels like being part of my family better than what it feels like being white. If you know what I mean. Like
Uh,
when I'm in the world, I'm thinking a little bit about how my family would take it, how they raised me, because that affects me more immediately than my whiteness. Although my family is white, but they're not into being white, but they are white, and they can't help but be white. And the same with me. So there's things I notice about being white in contrast with the Asians, the Hispanics, the blacks, and others. There's things that I notice that are different, and they'll say, "Oh, you're so white. You put on the seatbelt, you're so white," or whatever. They would say stuff like that in high school. But I don't really know. But I definitely did notice with last week's biblical question with JLP concerning race, which color would you choose to be right? There was a pull that wanted to say white, and it's not just because they may be right in this situation, but it's because they're white. And there's been there's been an anti-white push, and that may be part of why I started identifying a little bit with being white, but it's kind of like identifying with your own body and identifying with your own messed up ego that somebody tries to defy you and humiliate you or whatever, or insult you and you get offended. It's kind of like that misidentity. I found out that I'm no different from the blacks. There's blacks who would have picked black because they're black, and I respected it. I didn't mind it. I don't think it's necessarily wrong.
well, the thing is, when I think about like, say, if I was to wake up tomorrow and I was a white person, right, a white man looking just like you,
Uh-huh.
like I'm trying to imagine how it would feel. Like, do you wake up and look around you and say, you know, my people did all of this. This country, this is ours. We run this thing. Do you feel like a sense of pride when you look around and say that, you know, you're the king of America and stuff like that? Do you feel boastful and prideful when you wake up in the morning?
I think it's a white thing to be sort of individual, and it's also been pushed on us too. So it's both a positive and a negative, I think. To be individual and be like, it wasn't me. I didn't build this. Good for those other whites who did. Good for my dad for doing what he did, and my grandparents and doing what they did, and the founders who built the country. I don't know what good and evil they did, but I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that they did it, and I notice that the whites tend to support that freedom and clean looking, on the outside at least, law-abiding lifestyle, fair-minded lifestyle more than the rest. The others aren't really as fair or just oriented. They're a little bit more, I don't know if it's selfish or socialist or what. Maybe that's the same thing. But no, I don't necessarily feel pride like I'm the king of the world because of what other whites did. I'm just,
Well, you have a sense of confidence that you can make it in this country for the most part, if you just fit in some effort, right?
Definitely. Yeah, if I keep working and save money and do the things that Gregatron said to do. I don't know if you heard Gregatron's tips for spending less than you make and being responsible and all those things. Yeah, I'm not concerned about surviving.
Yeah, you're pretty confident that you'll be successful if you want it. Yeah. But for me, and I mean, as a black man, when I go out into the world, you know, I kind of feel like, hey, I could probably, outdance everybody out here or something like that. Or I'm probably faster than everybody out here. I'm probably stronger than most people. But when I see the cops, I'm probably thinking that, they're probably going to maybe profile me as a criminal and I could go to jail if I make one wrong move.
Right.
And that's always in the back of my mind, like, oh, shoot, I'm black. Because I'm black, the world looks at me as a black person as this criminal, and they're going to, come after me if I, don't stay on the up and up.
The propaganda is that deep,
feeling.
huh? The so it's really
you don't have that feeling when you get around police officers that, they're gonna shoot you in the back or profile you or kill you, just for being your color, anything like that?
I've never had that before. No, there's no brainwashing against the police, at least not to that level among the whites, especially among the law-abiding whites. There's some whites who are kind of anti-cop, who may break. There's like a little outlaw culture among the whites, and they are critical of the cops because they know cops. They know how cops are sometimes, and so they know that cops can violate your constitutional rights and get crazy, especially if you're a little crazy. But no, it's not I don't think the brainwashing and victimhood thing and fear of the cops and the pretense that it's just because you're black, it happens to the whites. Definitely not.
Well, I kind of feel that if I was a white person, right, all I would have to do is act like I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Right. Act like you belong there.
And the cops would just assume I am.
Right.
Even if I'm like the worst criminal in the world.
True.
But if I was black, as a black person, I have to act like a law-abiding citizen, be a law-abiding citizen, and still prove that I'm a law-abiding citizen, because the pretense when they see me is to automatically think that I'm a criminal. Because I might look like, some gang member,
right,
around the corner or something.
Because there's so many black gang members who are just openly defiant of the law, or they'll lie and all kinds of stuff. What a mess! And then one black will accuse the other black of committing a crime, and the other black didn't even commit the crime. And then other people, other races get the idea, I can just blame a black.
Yeah,
they can just lie. And then people will believe it because blacks are doing it, but this black didn't even do it.
Yeah, and then after a while, a law-abiding black person will think, well, shoot, what I'm being law-abiding for if everybody's going to assume that I'm a criminal to begin with?
But to me, it's not even a temptation not to be law-abiding for the most part. Is it a temptation to you? Is it a drag being law-abiding? Why not just stay law-abiding? It's less stress. It's better.
No, well, the thing is with black people, it's when it comes to making a lot of money in this country, when it's more difficult to make a lot of money the right way than it is for like white people.
But white people aren't really tempted as much. It's never been a temptation to me to sell drugs. Nobody around me. I mean, there were probably some people around me selling drugs. I mostly didn't know about it. I don't even know if I really can think of anybody who I knew was selling drugs. I heard from like different Mexicans who did a little bit, and there had to have been some whites doing it, and maybe even some Asians. But breaking laws and stealing and all that stuff. I remember one time I was tempted to steal. I was a kid. I was like, I could take that gum out of the newsstand. I'm at the checkout. I could just grab that gum. And I was tempted to do it, but I didn't end up doing it. I'm kind of glad I didn't. Because once you cross that line of stealing, then it takes less to convince you to follow that temptation.
Yeah, so why would you steal the gum when your father is probably your friend with the guy that owns the store and they'll just give it to you for free, right?
No, that had nothing to do with now you're making stuff up. My dad was not the friend of the newsstand guy. The newsstand was way over in Arcadia at the other side, a couple blocks from church. And I skipped Sunday school to go down to the newsstand, read G.I. Joe comic books, go to the donut shop, get some crisp cut fries or curly fries or whatever it is that they have at Carl's Jr., which is Hardee's for you people over there. And I wanted to get some candy or whatever. The guy's like, I bet your dentist likes you. But no, my dad didn't know the guy. I didn't even end up buying the gum or stealing it. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the temptation. There's no temptation you're making up kind of excuses for, I guess that blacks are so surrounded by crime and that they think of it not so bad. Like you'll hear a lot of blacks say, "Oh, my kids were good. They never been to jail." You rarely will hear whites say, "My kids are good. They never been to jail." That's like there's a whole different standard in terms of what's expected of blacks versus whites among themselves. So,
well, the thing is, like, all right, so when black people were in slavery, right?
yeah.
The slave owners used to just break up the families all the time. You know?
Sometimes
So
maybe I heard that's not necessarily true because the slave masters liked to keep the families together in some cases because they worked better together. So in some cases they did take the parents away if the kid was old enough to work on his own or whatever. But they didn't necessarily break up the families as much as you say all the time. I don't know if that's true. But anyway,
I would say like probably it happened like predominantly most of the time. So and
I doubt that, but go ahead.
And you take it to today, right? And say like you have a black family,
right?
And the father doesn't make enough money, or the father isn't with the family, right? And the mother has to go to work, and the mother who has maybe two or three children, she really doesn't have enough to provide her children with some of the finer things in life. Because she doesn't have the support from a man for whatever reason.
But if this is slavery days, they're taken care of because they're working under the slave master who's taking care of them.
No, well, I'm talking about today, though.
But today has nothing to do with why the black families are broken up. The slavery has nothing to do with why the black families are broken up today.
Well, I think it's like a conditioning that happened over, like, centuries.
No, man, I can tell you that what I've heard from the statistics from back then, the black families were more together back then than they are today. They got worse and worse and worse over the past several decades.
Black families were closer during slavery than they are today? Or?
Yeah, and right after slavery, during Jim Crow, they were together. And they were more likely to be married with kids than even white people. It's at one point I heard. I don't know if that's true. But the out of wedlock birth rates came like crazy after as the so-called civil rights movement took over and the blacks were moving up north into the degenerate cities, and with welfare, the welfare thing helped encourage blacks to not be together, and then it just went crazy. And then also abortion. The Roe v. Wade thing increased out-of-wedlock births and sex out of wedlock.
But why did the black people move to those cities? Because there were no job opportunities in the South, right, to make money. So they had to go to the North. They had to go to the major cities to start making money because that's where all the factories were. If you wanted to go to New York, Detroit, Chicago, so on and so forth.
Right, but for some reason, when they went up there, they didn't marry before having kids, so the out of wedlock birth rate was like 25% or more.
Not
Um,
at first. It,
in
it
the
started gradually moved in that direction.
But just going up to the factory doesn't mean you don't have to have that. Doesn't mean that you you should abandon your morals. Working at a factory doesn't mean you have no morals.
No, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying once they got into the inner city lifestyle, a lot of things culturally changed for them that was different from when they were in the deep south and they had to support. They had to rely on each other. Working on farms or working on the countryside, as opposed to when you're in the city and you could just go out and do anything and make a quick buck.
But Jews
That,
were in the ghetto and they didn't really abandon the family situation. They still maintained their families, whether they were poor or rich, or in the city or outside of the city. But blacks, for some reason, they abandoned the family thing.
well, the Jews is the ones that started the city to begin with.
Well, the rich ones were, but not the. Well, maybe I don't know. But the poor ones, the ones who were and all these other cultures, they weren't. Just because you're poor or in a city, that doesn't mean that your family has to break up.
No, not entirely, but in the inner city, there was a lot of instances of white gangs, like the Irish in New York City had a bunch of gangs, the Italians, the Polish, all of those people. Even the Russians today, they have a lot of gangs in these inner cities.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean
They had
that
a
the
lot of
families
violence
break
too.
up. Those are. Oh, you're saying that those people are messed up because those gang members come from messed up families. I get you.
I mean, it's just part of the atmosphere. It's not just your family. It's not Little House on the Prairie that's influences you as your the environment that you're growing up in as well.
Well, the point is the point is that the family breakup of the blacks did not come from centuries of slavery.
I don't know. I can't draw a hard conjunction to it, a hard line between it. But socially, if you were to really examine it from a sociological standpoint, you could probably see some connection there.
You can make up stuff, but I don't think you would be wise to do that.
Well, that's why I asked you. I said, would it feel like to be a white person? To look around and say,
yeah, it's sort of white to have a family that's at least pretends to be together.
No, I'm saying,
say that.
Don't you have a sense of pride and dignity in yourself as a white person when you look up and say, my people did all of this and I could do that as well?
I don't think that most whites think like that. I don't think like that. I'm glad. I don't think of whites as my people. I get that they kind of are. And I don't know if it's the brainwashing that I experienced growing up, this sort of anti-racist brainwashing where whites are kind of trained not to think of themselves as one people. But partly because we're so different among one another that we don't really, there's so many different types of whites nowadays, especially. But no, it's cool. It's cool that the whites did that, but are you glad to live in a white country?
Well, what I'm saying, it was white people that invented race to begin with.
They may have had to. They may have had to notice and define the different races because of the diversity, partly that they brought in with the blacks, and then they started to bring in the Chinese, and now and also intermingle with the Mexicans, because they are different cultures. It's not like we invented that you're different. You are different. We didn't invent that. Have you noticed that?
No, I'm just saying I think that it was economically beneficial to create race. That way you can divide.
It is beneficial to
note to us and this money goes to you.
Well, I don't know about the divvying up of money, but it's wise, worldly wise, to notice the different people and treat them accordingly, the way either they want to be treated or the way that they don't want to be treated at all. Let them segregate if they want to segregate. Start to market to them. I noticed that there's a lot of Spanish marketing and Chinese marketing toward the Hispanic different cultures and the Chinese and Asian different cultures and the black culture. The marketing wise, you want to market to this group of people who are taking over this area. And so Black Angus is going to close down in Arcadia. So yeah, you do want to notice and recognize the differences among the different races and cultures, for sure, money-wise, and getting along with people-wise, too.
Yeah, it's just that whenever I read, like, any historical literature, a lot of some of the first encounters that the Europeans had with Africans and even with the Native Indians, they kind of automatically thought, well, we can use these people for this or we can use these people for that. They didn't just see them as a group of people individually. Like, for instance, Christopher Columbus wrote that he thought that the natives that he ran into, the Tainos, Native Indians, he called them savages, and he reported that back to Italy.
Well, how do you know that he wasn't basing the savage thing on how they acted?
I don't know what he based it on, but
then why are you assuming that he just jumped to conclusions about how to use them and label them savages?
Well,
when maybe they were acting like savages, because definitely like the founders who wrote the Declaration of Independence noticed that they were like merciless savages who paid no attention to, didn't care if you were young or old, sick or healthy, man or woman. They would kill them all and be vicious.
Not all of them. Some tribes
right, of course, not all of them, but they would. The point is, there were
violent,
right? But nobody said
that goes for every group, right?
But they were remarkably savages. Yes, it goes for every group. There's some savage, vicious, evil people in every group, but it was a remarkable number, enough to write it down, that the King of England, I guess, exploited, or used the merciless Indian savages against our people, the colonies.
I don't think that they were concerned about them being savages because they had swords and stuff like that, and the natives didn't have as powerful as weaponry. You know, I think they
in terms of warfare, but if it was normal warfare, they wouldn't be concerned. But in terms of them killing old people, women, children, sick people, mercilessly, who are just regular people living around the area, that's a concern as being savages. You can't live among people like that. That's dysfunctional.
I don't think that, Christopher Columbus had a degree in human society to even be able to, identify a group of people like that just in, a month or so of contact with them.
How do you figure you have to have a degree in something to label somebody as savage when you live for a month with them? You know what they're like living for a month with them. As a man living in real life, as opposed to some degree. Come on, man.
Well, look
that's
at
ridiculous.
Look at the Dark Ages in Europe.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure that's far more violent than the Indians were.
How is that a comfort to Christopher Columbus? They're savages, but the Dark Ages were worse. What does Christopher Columbus care about the Dark Ages?
What I'm trying to say is, as he called them savages, not because of their violence, but because of their culture, because they didn't wear, clothes like the Europeans did, or because they walked around, butt naked, and he thought that was, a savage, like an animal. But they would cover their body in, art as opposed to wearing wigs and, knickerbockers and pants and stuff like that.
But
Top hat.
doesn't that kind of indicate that they have less developed? They're less civilized.
I don't know. Does it?
I don't know. I think that it kind of does. I would call them kind of like, oh man, these are kind of savages. But they were violent, man. You're making up stuff about Christopher Columbus just to act like he was wrong for calling them what he saw them to be.
Well, within his documentation stated that they were a violent people.
I didn't. You were the one who brought it up. I'm just basing it off of what I've heard from the founders. The founders talked about them being violent. I don't know what Christopher Columbus saw. You know more than I do about that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. That,
But you're making. It sounds like you're making up stuff about how they looked versus how they acted.
Well, that's what he wrote. That's what Christopher Columbus wrote.
Right, but you don't know. Did you say did Christopher Columbus say they were not violent? They were non-violent savages?
Said that some of them were violent and some of them were very friendly.
Yeah, and savage, what did savage mean back in the day?
Right, exactly.
No, that's a question.
Yeah, that's up for interpretation. I don't know exactly what he meant by it. But
because savage, let's see. Savage. I'm looking it up. I'm trying to zoom in. My trackpad is malfunctioning. Of an animal or force of nature. Fierce, violent, and uncontrolled. That's an adjective. Something bad or negative. Very great, severe. A brutal or vicious person. Wild dog or animal. I wonder what it meant way back then. But when I heard savages, okay.
And that's the definition of savage in the English language. Christopher Columbus was Italian.
Well, some people say he was a Spanish Jew or whatever. I don't know. Maybe whatever. But anyway, of the woods. Oh, so it's a wild person from the woods. So what are you getting all mad about him calling them savages when that's literally what they were? They were wild people from like a wild dog, from the woods.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it.
No, I know, but you're criticizing him as ignorantly labeling them savages back in the good old days when that was a common term, more of a common term for people from the woods, wild people from the woods.
Well, Christopher Columbus only went on that voyage to find money. And when he came back, he had to bring back to the monarchy and to the royalty ways that, his kings can exploit that land and its people so they can make money off of it.
What's that have to do with anything?
When he came back, he said, we can exploit this land
right
for this, and we can put their people in bondage and make money off of it.
Nice.
So that's what his intentions were. I'm not saying that, he maliciously said, I hate, these Indians or anything like that. I think it was all driven by profit, Because you recall, he went on that voyage so he could find a quicker route to the India or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. That's what I heard.
Yeah, because apparently the Europeans were trading back and forth with the Chinese and the Indians for, several centuries before Columbus, made that voyage because they were afraid that the planet was flat, and he would fall off the side of the earth.
I think most people knew that it was a ball at that point. But do you want to talk with Alex in California? Dennis here?
I don't mind.
Alex in California has been on hold. Alex, thanks for calling. You're live with Dennis in New Jersey and Hake.
Yeah, just wanted to respond to what it feels like to be white. Just expounding on what Hake has already covered.
Cool.
Law and order, cleanliness, things being sterile, safe, manners, being kind, to use literal words, being compassion, or in other words, looking out for other people, doing the right thing without expectation, just knowing to do the right thing. I think that's more of the stuff that I look at as being white
Yeah.
when I think of white. Like if we all had a neighborhood, that's what I would think of.
And the only reason we think of that is because these others races aren't like that as much.
Right. When you live amongst others, it's noticeable. Like you said,
Yeah.
when you're an outsider, you can notice things that the insiders don't. It goes for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Have you
Have
noticed
you
that,
ever
Dennis?
Have you ever asked a black person what it feels like to be black, or you just don't even care?
No, I haven't. I think I kind of understand from what I've seen a lot of black people say.
Well, like it's like looking in the mirror, right? If we both were to look in the mirror from different angles, we would see different images.
Right.
So you can't really see what I see unless you.
I think the difference is the my people thing. Like I could say for myself, I don't look at it as like a my people thing. Like it's more of an individual thing. Like Hake said, I look at more of what am I doing with my life and what am I good at? What am I bringing to the table versus like what is my group of people doing? I don't know. There might be other whites who do look at it like that, but I personally don't.
Yeah.
I'm worried about my goals.
Yeah, I think that blacks think more about what it's like being black than whites think about what it's like being white.
Oh, so
there's more unity at least.
You're just making things up now, hey.
Why? You guys talk about as a black man or as a black woman this, and white people don't. You never hear white people say as a white man or as a white woman.
I think the most important thing for Dennis is it's the no snitch culture. Like us as whites, that's one thing I could say as like my people, quote unquote. We have a culture of accountability where you guys would call it snitching. But we look at that as the right thing to do. Like if my neighbor was selling crack and people are getting shot in his house, we're gonna call the police and quote unquote snitch on them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the black thing would be like, don't snitch.
Yeah.
That's and I'm not even like judging or hating. I'm just saying that's the main difference between whites and blacks, and I think that might be a difference between most other cultures and blacks as well. I think it's just whites and blacks have been pitted against each other when it's kind of the whole world against blacks.
Yeah, true.
If that makes sense.
I think you're looking at it from a privileged standpoint. Now, put yourself in a different situation. Let's say that you live in a rough part of town in a city that's run by all black people, and you're one white neighborhood. You guys aren't making much money. Only way you can make money is to sell some drugs, right? But if the guy, say you got a job or something like that, you work for some black company somewhere in the city, right? And your neighbor is selling drugs, another white man, but all of the police officers in your city are black. Are you going to go to the black police officers to tell on your white neighbor?
I mean, yeah, because it's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, yeah, we have to bypass the whole racial thing. It goes to just what's the right thing to do, and even if that comes with consequences on me because of the culture against that.
What if your neighbor, right, is a guy that you've known all your life, a friend, and he's always struggled. His mother wasn't around. Maybe they've always, had trouble making money. And, you just so happen to get lucky enough to, make a few dollars, in your career, but he's still struggling. You never, I don't know, maybe he didn't have the motivation, or maybe he got influenced, or maybe he, started, using illicit drugs and stuff like that. And he's an old friend. Would you try to stop him from selling drugs if you felt that it was affecting your community, your white community? Or would you go to the black police officers and tell them to go, shoot him and take him to jail?
Well, I think there's a lot of dynamics to that. We're kind of making it real simple, but I mean, yeah, going back to it would be the right thing to do.
That is the reality of the dynamics in this country, though, right?
my people, quote unquote, don't want drug dealers on their streets so their kids can go outside and play in the street and not get shot and see fentanyl and crack. I think it's that simple. And we would call the police to keep that out of our neighborhood. I think most people would.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's getting really bad, where there's people getting shot and people are obviously shamelessly just like shooting up in the street versus, doing it discreetly. People are going to, if you could be more discreet with your crime, I think people would mind it less. But when you're just shameless doing it out in the open because you don't care, because F the world, like that's when we're going to, regulate.
Totally.
My people.
Yeah, that's the problem. See, you're not going to snitch on the Italian mafia or the Irish mafia unless you have another gang, which is the police officers, who are a bigger gang than the Italian and the Irish mafia, and you could go, get on their side and they'll help you out.
Well, I mean, you're talking to a white dude who lives in the suburbs. Like if I was back in the East Coast or something, I could see what you're saying, but that's a regional thing for sure.
Yeah, I've never had to deal with the mafia.
Like when I was young, I lived in Connecticut, and in New Haven, there was definitely some mafia stuff. But I mean, I live in California now in a suburb. It's
Yeah, I mean,
New Haven, Connecticut. I went to Central Connecticut State University. I played football out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that area.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess the main point I would say, Dennis, and it's not like a judgmental thing. It's just white people, we have a way bigger thing about like accountability and kind of policing each other versus the anti-snitch thing. And I think that's where blacks and whites, it's, for some reason, we come to an impasse basically.
Right. Yeah. That's why I think it's important that black people police their own neighborhoods.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you should.
Absolutely.
That's what whites are doing is whites kind of naturally self-police. They'll kind of be like, hey, you can't do that. Or they'll get into little fights with their neighbors. And if it gets really bad, they'll call the police. But rarely does that even have to happen.
You gotta.
I think I got my stuff out. I kind of have to get driving here, but I definitely appreciate getting that out, and appreciate you talking to you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Appreciate talking to you.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
I guess.
Bye. Do you want to talk to?
You also got to admit that the law enforcement in this country is business, and these police officers are making six-figure salaries. If there was no crime, they wouldn't make any money.
But there's never not going to be crime.
They sure do hope so.
Well, I mean, is there any indication that the blacks are going to stop committing crime?
We'll see.
Interesting. I appreciate it, Dennis. I got to run.
All right, see you. Talk to you later.
All right.
Got to run too.
Take care.
Right.
Bye. Wow. William in California is on the line over here. I got to get at least William in. William, thank you for calling and holding, man. What's up?
Hey, James, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you.
That almost took the air out of everything I was going to say, but I think I wish I'd get asked some of these questions. They doesn't fly really.
That's the brainwashing, though, man, and you just have
you
to.
think that's what it is?
It's got to be, because they all talk the same.
James, I talk to blacks, whites, everything. It's like me and Gregor Tron were talking several times. We've had conversations. I've never remembered him asking me, what does it feel like to be black?
Of course not.
Or do we discuss anything about black?
Yeah.
Too much put into that. Policing your neighborhood does not mean put on fatigues and have dirty AR-15s in Ohio and walking black kids home like as if somebody's going to do anything to these little black kids.
Yeah.
Because it didn't even make any sense. Because what are you guarding them from? Other black people shooting in your neighborhood? So I'm just saying, policing doesn't mean do all of that. Policing means being responsible in your neighborhood. And unlike the caller, I live suburbs too. But it just takes a lot of air out of things. I haven't called you in a couple of days because I had jury duty all week. And, but I was listening yesterday, and it was quite hilarious. Of course, David O'Connor never disappoints. And you guys had me laughing yesterday about a lot of the subjects. I think on the subject of the girl with the baton thing, I think it would have been a better service if her parents were to have her apologize to the other girl. It would have made a bigger story than it is right now, because right now it is of no significance. It just shows more bad behavior on the parents' part, as well as the NAACP and Black Lives Matter showing up once again for a little bit of nothing.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Bad behavior on the little girl. That's all it is to it. And I think they would have made a bigger splash if the parents would have not taken up for that girl.
For what's right. For what's right.
That's correct.
Yeah. William, I appreciate you, man. I got to run. It's good to hear from you.
Take care, man.
All right.
Oh, what did you think about the splashdown and the most famous African-American in the country? Mission accomplished, huh?
I'm
The
drawing a
space.
blank. Oh, space. Oh, dude, that was beautiful. Shout out to Elon Musk. That's what you're talking about. The rescue.
And that's a victory. That's a victory for the Earth being round.
Indeed. Nice.
Take care.
All right. You as well. Take care. Bye. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Lin Yan Shin says, flow into the future by concentrating into the present moment. Concentrating every pulse of your attention into the focus of your being. Be still, and you'll sense the pulse of every vibration and reverberation as the sum of all particles in your body, says Lin Yan Shin. Practice staying present is the theme over here. Commander Kim wrote, she wrote a couple of them. So I'll just have to read them here because I have them here. I screenshotted them. I have them on my computer. Columbus was ticked because of a bunch of child-sacrificing cannibals ate his native friends. That's when he started killing, says Commander Kim. It kind of helps sometimes to know a little history, huh? I didn't know that. Columbus made friends with peaceful, friendly Indians, American Indians, that is. When he left and came back to look for his friends, their islands and villages were abandoned because savages ate them. She writes in all caps there. Wow. Terrible stuff going on in the world to this day. Thank you, Commander Kim. I believe that I'm caught up on everything there. Unfortunately, guys, Robert in Kansas, Rick in Hampton, VA, Maze in Dayton, Ohio, and the rest of the callers, I cannot get to you. I have to schedule the redirect for Joel Friday TV, who's coming in next. Joel Friday will be here. Joel Friday TV. He's live today, right after this. What is a Real Connection is the name of his episode coming up here, I believe. Thank you, D-Live crew. Thank you, Rumble crew. Thank you, YouTube, Snake Pit, beautiful people. And ugly. I only have so much time left. I guess I gotta play Adri on Baixinha Forte. And then I gotta get out of here. Bye, guys. It's the Hake News Wrap, right? Peace. Oh, no. I forgot to unmute.
Don't take the bait. You know that they are fake. I rest my case. There's no debate. Listen to Hake. He tells it like it should. Them posers wish they could. They roaming around in the ground. Watch out, they lying now. Commie networks, evil snakes. That's why we listen to Hake.